Who is she? How did she get in here? The boss didn't say anything about this.
They expected a man. Someone tall, loud, wrapped in a suit that screamed money and menace. Someone who would bow, flatter and lie about loyalty. Instead, Nyra Cole walked in. Combat boots echoed once against the marble floor of the penthouse, heavy, deliberate, final. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. Laughter thinned into silence. The air shifted, like a storm rolling in without warning. She didn't dress to impress. Dark jeans, a fitted jacket that hid more than it revealed. Her natural hair pulled back tight, no softness, no apology. Her face was calm in a way that made grown men uncomfortable, like she already knew how this would end. One of the guards scoffed under his breath. Another smirked openly. Someone muttered a word that carried centuries of contempt. Nyra heard it all. At the far end of the room sat Han Junseok, ruler of an empire built on precision and blood. He didn't laugh. He studied her the way a chess master studies a board already on fire. "You understand why you're here?" he asked. Nyra met his gaze, held it, didn't blink. "Because in 5 days," she said evenly, "you're supposed to be dead." A few men shifted, hands twitched near concealed weapons. Nyra reached into her jacket and placed a small object on the table. Not a gun, not a badge. A warped piece of scorched metal, edges twisted like it had survived hell itself. "This," she continued, "is what's left of a drone that tried to erase me. It failed." She leaned forward slightly, close enough now that Junseok could see the scars threading her knuckles. Close enough that he felt it, that dangerous pull between fear and fascination. "You don't hire me because you trust me," Nyra said softly. "You hire me because when 50 people come to kill you..." Her eyes flicked to the guards who had laughed. "I'll still be standing." Outside, the city of Seoul burned bright and beautiful, unaware that before sunrise, blood, betrayal, and something dangerously close to desire were about to collide. 3 nights earlier, Elder Choi had watched a woman destroy 10 men in under 2 minutes. The alley reeked of rotting fish and broken dreams, tucked behind a podging marcher where drunk salarymen pretended their lives had meaning. Choi had been tracking a debt collector when he saw her, silhouette against neon, impossibly still while chaos erupted around her. The gang came fast, knives out, overconfident. She moved like water finding cracks in concrete. The first man's wrist snapped before he registered her presence. The second ate pavement, his nose restructured by her knee. No wasted motion, no theatrics, just brutal mathematical efficiency. Economy of violence, Choi thought, mesmerized. When the last attacker hit the ground unconscious, she didn't even breathe hard. Just checked her watch, stepped over the bodies, and disappeared into the rain-slicked darkness like she'd never existed at all. Choi pulled out his phone with trembling fingers. "Junseok Nim," he said when the line connected, "I found something." Another ex-military washout, the boss sounded exhausted, hopeless. "No," Choi watched the empty alley, still seeing her ghost. "I found a ghost to protect a dragon." Junseok was silent for a long moment. Then, "Bring her in." "There's something you should know first." "What?" Choi smiled despite himself. "She's not what they'll expect." Now, standing in the penthouse with the titanium shard on the table, and Nyra's dark eyes promising quiet devastation, Choi understood something fundamental. Desperation had given them exactly what they needed. T-Ho spat his contempt. The others laughed their small, ugly laughs. Nyra just waited. Let them underestimate her, Choi thought. It'll make the lesson sweeter. Junseok leaned forward. "Show me." The compound sprawled across 3 acres of Seoul's most expensive earth, all glass, steel, and the illusion of safety. Nyra saw only vulnerabilities. 12 entry points, she muttered, walking the perimeter while T-Ho's men trailed behind her like resentful shadows. 17 if you count the rooftop access and the maintenance tunnels you pretend don't exist. "We have cameras," T-Ho said, his Korean sharp with disdain. "Motion sensors, pressure plates." Nyra stopped at a blind spot between 2 security posts, pulled a small LED flashlight from her pocket and traced the camera's sightline. "You have equipment, not a system." She turned to face him. "How long would it take 50 coordinated operators to breach this perimeter?" "That's impossible." 4 minutes, she started walking again, less if they have your access codes. One of the younger guards muttered something crude about her body. She didn't acknowledge it, just kept cataloguing weaknesses, her mind already 3 steps ahead. They see a woman, an outsider, something to mock and dismiss. Good. Inside, the penthouse gleamed with old money and new threats. Nyra moved through rooms like a surgeon studying anatomy, feeling for arteries, mapping pressure points. She found the first listening device hidden in a decorative vase, the second in the frame of an ancestral portrait. Someone's been preparing, she thought, pocketing the bugs without fanfare. Someone close. In the security room, she commandeered a terminal. Tiho bristled. Those files are classified. Then classify me. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing personnel records, shift rotations, financial transactions, looking for the pattern, the inconsistency, the lie. Jun Seok appeared in the doorway, silent as smoke. Find something, he asked. Nyra didn't look up. Your enemies already have. She pulled up a schematic, the compound's full layout, annotated with strike points and extraction routes. This was uploaded to a dark web server 48 hours ago. The air went cold. One of mine, Jun Seok's voice could have cut glass. One of yours, Nyra finally met his eyes, and they're still here. The sniper's bullet arrived during lunch. One moment, Jun Seok was listening to a finance report. The next, the floor-to-ceiling window behind him became a constellation of cracks, spiderwebbing outward from a hole that shouldn't exist. Nyra moved on instinct. She hit Jun Seok mid-torso, driving him sideways as the delayed sound, crack, finally reached them. They landed hard against the marble, his expensive suit creasing, her body already calculating trajectories. Southwest, 1,100 meters, elevated position. She was up before anyone else processed what happened, sprinting not toward cover but toward the shattered window. T-Ho shouted something, she ignored him. On the balcony, wind whipping her jacket, Nyra pulled a compact drone from her tactical pack. Military grade, off-market, illegal in 17 countries. 1,100 meters, wind from the east, spotter would be. She launched the drone with one hand while her other worked her phone. Patching into its camera feed, the device climbed fast, angling toward the high-rise across the plaza. Their thermal signature, rooftop 2 figures. The sniper was already packing up, professional, but the spotter lingered, watching through binoculars to confirm the kill. Amateur mistake. Nyra armed the drone's single payload, a modified flashbang she'd upgraded with magnesium, the kind that burned retinas and melted equipment. She tapped the screen. The spotter never knew what erased his world in white fire. When Nyra walked back inside, the room was frozen. Guards with guns drawn, Jun Seok on his knees, touching his chest like confirming he still existed. Their eyes met. For the first time she saw it, not skepticism, not contempt. Fear, the healthy kind, the kind that came from realizing you'd been breathing on borrowed time. The round was subsonic, Nyra said calmly, holding up her phone to show the thermal wreckage across the plaza. They wanted you to hear it coming, wanted you afraid. She walked to Jun Seok, extended her hand. He took it, let her pull him to his feet. They failed, she said. Midnight found them alone. The others had finally dispersed, T-Ho to brood, the guards to pretend they'd been useful. Elder Choi stood watch outside while Jun Seok poured 2 glasses of whiskey older than most countries. You don't drink, he observed, but poured anyway. I do tonight. Nyra accepted the glass, let the amber liquid warm her hands. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy with unspoken things. How did you know, Jun Seok asked finally, about the sniper? I didn't, Nyra stared into the whiskey like it held answers. But in my experience, the first attempt is always theatre. They want to see how you respond, who protects you, where the gaps are. Your experience. He sat across from her, close enough that she could see the silver threading his temples. Elder Choi found articles, or rather the absence of them, ghost operations in Yemen, a black site in Moldova that stopped existing. You're a hole in the historical record. Nyra's smile held no warmth. You're one to talk. How many bodies are hidden in Seoul's foundation? Enough that I stopped counting. He took a long drink. They offered me Excel, new identity, a beach somewhere warm where the only blood is from paper cuts. You didn't take it. This empire, he gestured vaguely at the opulence surrounding them, it's not built on greed, it's built on the promise that some things are sacred, family, loyalty, honor among thieves. Nyra finished. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face, made him look younger, almost kind. They told me you were on a burn list, he said quietly, that your own government wants you disappeared, something about knowing too much, being too good at the wrong things. Nyra set down her glass. We're the same, you and I, ghosts who haven't figured out we're already dead. The words hung between them like a confession. Junseok leaned forward, not aggressive, searching. Then why are you here? The money. The money's a means, freedom's the end. She met his eyes. I want to stop being a weapon, want to be something else. What? I don't know yet, honest, raw, but I know I can't become it while running. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, kinship. Keep me alive 5 days, he said, and I'll give you more than money. I'll give you invisible, new name, new history, a chance to find out who Nyra Cole becomes when the world stops hunting her. She studied him, this quiet dragon wrapped in expensive fabric and existential weariness. Deals. Kang Min-yi was a masterpiece of mediocrity. Mid-level accountant, forgettable face, the kind of man who blended into wallpaper and never drew suspicion. He'd served Junseok for 8 years with perfect, unremarkable loyalty. Which was exactly what made Nyra notice him. Day 3, 48 hours until the night compact arrived. She'd fired 6 guards for having suspicious bank deposits, replaced the entire IT team, locked down every access point until the compound felt less like a home and more like a bunker. Everyone was stressed, snapping at each other, making mistakes. Everyone except Min-yi. He moved through the chaos with the same placid expression he always wore, smiled blandly when Taeho screamed about the new restrictions, nodded sympathetically when others complained about Nyra's paranoia. Too calm, she thought, watching him from across the operations center, like he knows something they don't. That night she followed him. Min-yi left at exactly 9 p.m., same as always, took the same route through Gangnam's glittering streets, stopped at the same convenience store for the same brand of cigarettes he didn't smoke. Then he made a call. Nyra was close enough to see his lips move, not close enough to hear, but she didn't need audio when she had line of sight and a directional microphone hidden in her jacket lining. Confirmed for the 5th, Min-yi said in flawless English. Nyra Cole is the only variable, former Unit 731 Black Ops, 37 confirmed kills, he paused listening. Yes, I understand, the blueprints are already uploaded, she won't have time to. Nyra's blood turned to ice. Unit 731, her old designation, information that didn't exist in any accessible database. Min-yi wasn't just a traitor. He was connected to them, the people who'd made her, used her, decided she knew too much. When Min-yi ended the call and disappeared into a luxury apartment building, Nyra stood in the sole rain, mind racing. He gave them everything, the layout, the timeline, my capabilities. She pulled out her phone, texted Junseok one word. COMPROMICD. His response came immediately. Who is? Nyra stared at the glowing screen, rain streaming down her face. Everyone. You want to fire all of them? Taeho looked at Nyra like she'd suggested burning money. Not want, need. She stood in Junseok's office, arms crossed, unmovable as granite. We have 24 hours. I can't verify loyalty for 38 personnel in 24 hours, so we simplify. To what? Junseok asked quietly. You, me, Elder Choi. She pulled up a tablet, showed them thermal imaging of the compound. Everyone else is a potential leak, or a liability. That's insane. That's survival. Nyra cut Taeho off with a look that could stop hearts. They have our blueprints, our security codes, probably our dental records. The only advantage we have left is unpredictability. She turned to Junseok. I need you to trust me completely, or this doesn't work. The silence stretched like wire about to snap. Finally, Junseok nodded. Do it. The next 4 hours were chaos. Taeho argued until Junseok physically removed him from the premises. Guards protested, threatened, some even wept. Minyi watched it all with his usual bland expression, right up until Nyra escorted him to a car and sent him to a safe house 40 kilometers away. Keep your enemies close, she thought, and your traitors on GPS. By midnight, the compound was empty except for 3 souls. Nyra moved through the hollow spaces, transforming luxury into a labyrinth of death. She rewired the smart home system, turning voice-activated lights into strobe weapons, reprogrammed the climate control so she could flood specific zones with halon gas, planted motion sensors linked to directional sound cannons that could rupture eardrums. The sprinkler system became a conductor's grid, literally. One button press and she could electrify entire hallways. Elder Choi watched her work with something like awe. You've done this before. Different continent, same principle. Nyra soldered a wire, tested the connection. Make the environment the weapon, let them fear the walls themselves. In the security hub, she pulled up 50 dossiers, 50 faces, the night compact. Snipers from Russia, knife artists from Manila, poison specialists from Tel Aviv, each one a legend, each one coming for the same $25 million prize. They'll hit us from all sides, she said, more to herself than Choi. Coordinated, professional, no mercy. Can you stop them? Nyra looked at the old man, this loyal ghost who'd found her in an alley and changed both their fates. I don't need to stop all of them, she smiled, and it was a terrible thing. I just need to make them regret coming. They came at 3 a.m., when the world was at its darkest and human vigilance at its lowest. Nyra saw them on thermals before they breached the outer wall, heat signatures blooming like fatal flowers across every approach vector. North, south, east, west, rooftop insertions, tunnel crawlers, a perfectly synchronized assault. 50 professionals, she thought, fingers dancing across her jury-rigged command console. Let's see how professional they stay when the house fights back. The first team hit the east wall with shaped charges, precise, quiet. Nyra waited until they were inside the corridor. Then she activated the strobe protocol. The hallway erupted in seizure-inducing flashes, white, UV, infrared cycling at frequencies designed to disorient, nauseate, break. The assassins stumbled, night vision useless, spatial awareness destroyed. The sound cannons came next. Directional speakers unleashed 140 decibels of programmed chaos, screaming, static, frequencies that made inner ears rebel. 2 operatives dropped their weapons to claw at their heads. A third vomited inside his tactical mask. Nyra was already moving. She dropped through a hidden panel in the ceiling, landing behind the disoriented team. Her suppressed pistol spoke twice, clinical, efficient, 2 down. The others scattered, trying to adapt, but the house was alive now, Nyra its vengeful nervous system. She triggered the halon gas in the west wing, watching through cameras as a different team suddenly found themselves breathing nothing. They had maybe 30 seconds before unconsciousness, 20 before brain damage. Some ran, the smart ones. The rest stayed, thinking they could push through. Mistake. The North team tried the sophisticated approach, hacking the door locks with military-grade electronics. Nyra let them succeed, let them think they'd outsmarted her systems. They opened the door to a hallway where she'd removed every other floorboard and replaced it with breakaway panels over a 3-meter drop into the sub-basement. Screams echoed through her earpiece. In the security hub, Junseok watched the carnage unfold on multiple screens, his expression unreadable. Elder Choi stood beside him, hand on his sword, traditional, lethal, ready. 15 down, Nyra's voice crackled through the comms. 35 active. You're enjoying this, Junseok said quietly. A pause, then honest. I'm good at this, there's a difference. The South team, the largest, most heavily armed, breached the main entrance with overwhelming firepower. Nyra had expected that. She triggered the sprinkler system. Water cascaded from the ceiling, soaking the marble floors, the assassins' boots, their equipment. They kept advancing, weapons raised. 3, 2, 1. Nyra hit the electrical override. 10,000 volts surged through the water, turning the grand foyer into an execution chamber. Bodies convulsed, dropped, weapons clattered uselessly across electrified tile. 22 down, Nyra reported, her voice empty of triumph. Just mathematics. 28 remaining. But these were the best, the ones who adapted, learned, survived. And they were getting closer. The inner sanctum was Junseok's private gallery, a corridor lined with mirrors and priceless art, designed to showcase his wealth. Nyra had turned it into a killing floor. 10 assassins remained. The elite, the ones who'd navigated her traps, adapted to her tactics, pushed through colleagues' corpses with singular focus. They entered the gallery in formation, professional, cautious, ready for anything. Except themselves. Nyra had recalibrated every mirror to a precise angle. From certain positions, the reflections created impossible geometries. 5 assassins looked like 15. Movement became disorienting, perception unreliable. She waited in the shadows, breathing slow, heartbeat controlled, watching them. The first one died to confusion. He fired at his own reflection in a far mirror, the muzzle flash giving away his position. Nyra's return shot was instant, surgical. 9. They scattered, trying to find cover in a space where every surface lied. Nyra moved between the mirrors like smoke, using their own reflections as camouflage. A female operative, Moscow training, Nyra recognized the stance, tried to use the mirror's geometry against her. Smart, she tracked movement across 3 angles, triangulating Nyra's real position. Almost. Nyra had positioned one mirror on a motorized mount. She triggered it with her phone, and suddenly the angles shifted. The operative's calculations became lethal assumptions. 8. A knife artist from Manila got close, incredibly close. Nyra felt the blade whisper past her throat, close enough to draw a thin line of blood. She twisted, caught his wrist, and used his own momentum to drive him face first into a mirror. The glass shattered, his scream cut short. 7. They adapted faster than she expected, started shooting the mirrors themselves, destroying her advantage panel by panel. Nyra switched tactics, abandoned stealth for speed. She triggered smoke grenades, regular smoke mixed with reflective particles that turned the gallery into a glittering fog. Thermal imaging became useless, visual targeting impossible. But Nyra had mapped every inch of this space, knew exactly where each support column stood. Where the art pedestals created barriers, where the floor transitioned from marble to hardwood. She moved through the fog like memory made flesh. 6-5-4. The last 3 were exceptional. They formed a defensive circle, backs together, weapons pointed outward, patient, disciplined. Nyra almost respected it. She pulled the titanium shard from her pocket, the melted drone fragment she'd shown Junseok days ago. It had an edge, not much of one but enough. She threw it like a prayer. It struck the ornate chandelier's support chain, severing it cleanly. 2 tons of crystal and steel fell like judgment. 3, 2, 1. The last assassin was already running, smart enough to know when a contract became a death sentence. Nyra let him go, sent a message to every network, every dark web forum, every shadow broker. The night compact failed. 50 came, 1 left, spread the word. When she walked back into the security hub, she was covered in blood, most of it not hers. Junseok stood, started toward her, then stopped. "It's done?" he asked. "Not yet." Nyra's eyes were flat, empty. "We still have the invisible thread to cut." Min Yi returned at dawn. He walked through the carnage like a man touring a museum, clinical, detached, evaluating. Bodies in the courtyard, burn marks on the walls, the acrid smell of halon gas and spent ammunition. "Impressive," he said in that bland voice Nyra had learned to hate. "I told them you were dangerous, they didn't listen." Nyra stood in the doorway to Junseok's office, blocking his path. Behind her the boss sat at his desk, seemingly unaware, vulnerable. "Bait. The night compact failed," Nyra said evenly. "Your payday's gone." Min Yi smiled, the first genuine expression she'd ever seen on his forgettable face. "My payday was never dependent on their success. I get paid for information. The fact that you survived just makes the data more valuable." He pulled a gun, compact, professional, already aimed at Junseok's center mass. "They want to know how you did it," Min Yi continued. "Every trap, every tactic. You're not just protecting him anymore, you're the product." "Unit 731, Nyra said quietly. "You're still working for them. They made you into the perfect weapon. Now they want to study how that weapon adapts in the field. Today's data alone is worth. He never finished. Nyra's hand moved, not toward a weapon but to her pocket, the titanium shard, still slick with chandelier lubricant and someone's blood. She threw it. Not at Min-Yi, at the mirror behind him. The shard ricocheted off the glass at exactly the angle she'd calculated, changing trajectory mid-flight. It struck Min-Yi's gun hand, punching through the webbing between thumb and forefinger. The gun clattered, Min-Yi screamed. Nyra was already moving. She covered the distance in 3 strides, caught his falling body, and drove him to the marble with her knee in his spine. You made a mistake, she said, her voice terribly calm. You thought I was just a weapon, that's all you saw. She applied pressure, felt something in his back start to give. But weapons don't choose who they protect, I do. Nyra, Junseok's voice quiet behind her. Enough. She looked back, saw him standing now, phone in hand, already calling. Police, cleanup crew, did it matter? Their eyes met. In his she saw something that terrified her more than 50 assassins. Humanity, the reminder that she could still choose, could still be more than the sum of her training. Nyra released Min-Yi, stepped back, let others take him away. But she kept the titanium shard. Some weapons, after all, were worth keeping. The Seoul skyline burned gold and rose as the sun climbed over buildings that had witnessed too much death. Nyra sat on the balcony, the same one where a sniper had tried to end their story before it began. Her body ached, 3 cracked ribs, lacerations that would scar, bruises that would fade. The internal damage would take longer. Junseok joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee, not the instant garbage his guards used to drink. Elder Choi says you're leaving, he said. That was always the plan. The police will have questions, the bodies will be explained by your lawyers as a coordinated home invasion. You're a prominent businessman. These things happen. Nyra accepted the coffee, let its warmth seep into her palms. The Night Compact's survivors will spread the story. No one else will try, not for years. Junseok set an envelope on the table between them, thick, heavy. 12.5 million, he said. Half the bounty as agreed, plus a passport, Canadian, thoroughly documented, completely clean, birth certificate, work history, even a credit score. He paused. You could be anyone. Nyra picked up the envelope but didn't open it, just felt its weight. Who will you be? He asked. She thought about the question, really thought about it. I don't know yet, honest, raw, but for the first time in 15 years I get to find out. She stood, started to leave. Nyra, his voice stopped her. If you ever want to stop running, if you ever want a place where being extraordinary isn't a death sentence. She looked back at this quiet dragon, this man who'd given her more than money. He'd given her a choice. I'll remember that, she said. And she meant it. By the time the sun fully rose, Nyra Cole had disappeared into the crowds of Seoul, just another face in the endless stream of humanity. But somewhere in Vancouver, a woman named Sarah Chen was opening a bank account, renting a small apartment overlooking the harbour, and learning what it meant to be ordinary. The bodyguard nobody expected had become the woman nobody was hunting. And for the first time in her life that felt like victory,